Loud enough to
All right.
Well, hello again, class. The sun is setting. We're almost at the end of our tour here of Gettysburg. And we're going to end it here in the National Cemetery that was dedicated on November 19th, 1863. We are here on November 18th, on the eve of Abraham Lincoln giving the Gettysburg Address. And so we are literally standing in the same cemetery, in the same spot that he was. The thing about the address that we're going to read in a moment was that Abraham Lincoln was not the keynote speaker. The keynote speaker was Edward Everett. He was a former Secretary of State, former Senator, former Congressman, former Governor of Massachusetts, former President of Harvard University. Was he former anything else?
No, but he was the most prolific speaker at the time.
And a former, he ran against Abraham Lincoln on the vice presidency ticket in 1860. So they knew each other and were former rivals of Lincoln. And he was a famous orator, as you say. He spoke for 2 hours before Lincoln spoke. As a matter of fact, the date was supposed to be sometime in October, and he told the committee organizing this, I need more time to prepare. So they pushed the date back to November 19th. Lincoln comes. On the program, which I've seen for today, Edward Everett gave his address, and then it said we will have some dedicatory remarks from the president, some dedicatory remarks. He only speaks for about 2 minutes, and that's all it takes to read the speech that you're about to hear. There are some photographs, but some people believe that since Edward Everett took 2 hours, the photographers thought they had time to take the picture of Lincoln. When they looked up, he was finished.
Yeah, I believe there's only one existing photo of him giving the Gettysburg Address out here.
Well, here they don't know if he was actually giving the speech because it was so short.
You can barely see his head in it. So
right. So he's talking for 2 hours. We got time to take the photograph. But Lincoln only spoke for about 2.5 minutes, and he gave the address that we're about to read right now. Some myths about the speech. He did not write it on the train on the way down to Gettysburg. He had thought about it, started it in Washington, did work on it on the train, and then finished it tonight on November 18th. And he delivered it. There are about 5 copies, different versions of it. There's no television or radio, so we don't know which one he actually gave. If he read exactly what he wrote, or did he improvise? But the version that has come down to us through history by different reporters who were here is the one that we're about to read. So you're going to have a Northampton student right here who's in our Civil War course read these epic and most famous words of Abraham Lincoln.
Gettysburg Address. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation may live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave their last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from this earth. Abraham Lincoln, November 19th, 1863.
After he gave that speech, Edward Everett came up to Lincoln and shook his hand, and he said, the world will soon forget what I just said, that 2-hour speech that he gave, but they'll always remember what you said. And so he recognized right away that Lincoln's speech was so far more superior. What's also ironic and interesting is that Lincoln was at the nadir of his popularity when he gave that. The country was still very upset about the financial and human cost of the war, and it was very unlikely that Lincoln was going to be reelected in 1864. He was, but he didn't think that he would be. And of course, you know, the fact that he himself would be assassinated in 1865 is interesting. When he came here, he had already designated that the following Thursday would be a national day of Thanksgiving. And of course, Washington had done a similar thing during his administration, and it wouldn't become a national holiday until 1941, when Franklin Delano Roosevelt would make the federal holiday of Thanksgiving. So we're thankful to be here, and it was a very interesting day. Do you want anything else about Lincoln or the Gettysburg Address?
Thank you for watching.
Great day.
Very fun.
All right. Okay. Take care. Be well. Hope you're enjoying the course.